The most successful people in terms of bringing peace to the world throughout human history spend time having conversations with both sides of the aisle. Both sides. They did not just sit in the corner and spend time only with the people that they agree with. They spend time having conversations, and we are so afraid to do that. I don't know if it's because we are afraid to be wrong, or afraid to have conversations or have debates, or it's just that we're just lazy and we just want to spend time on our side. Either.
Hello, good day, everyone. Back to another episode of Ideation, where we discussed ideas for development. And with us today, we have a journalist, a local journalist, very popular in the space, by the name of Queen Saint-Just. We will be doing a side-by-side collaboration with Game Changers and Ideation. And basically today what we want to do, we want to really speak about the Caribbean unity in the face of global division. And what that will lead us into is discussing ideas in the space. And we know ideas are very powerful things, and because of the technological advancement, the digital media, many ideas are seeping through our culture. And the reason why I reached out to Queen to speak about this situation is because of a book that I read by Patriarch Krill. Patriarch Krill from it's a patriarch from Moscow, and I'm just going to introduce what we're going to speak about based on what he said in this book, a short excerpt based on what he said. In chapter 1 in this book, he spoke about the religious faith as a source of social norms. And it says, the most fundamental conflict of our present era is the clash between the liberal model of civilization on one hand and a national cultural and religious identity on the other hand. For me, it is the single largest challenge facing the human community in the 21st century. Research into the genesis of this opposition and the search for ways of overcoming it needs to occupy an important place in orthodox theological studies. Resolving the conflict could play a major role in determining the future of human civilization. This explains why the fact of raising this problem and initial attempts to determine it aroused both genuine interest and anger. The anger comes from those who, from certain ideological positions, deny the very existence of such a problem. For those quarters that fear a revision or correction of the liberal ideas which underpin current attempts to form a new and global image of human community from the melting pot of civilization and culture. And no less anger comes from the zealots of religious and cultural fundamentalists who have long resolved all these problems in their own minds, deeply convinced that the only road to salvation is a retreat behind tightly bolted doors. So basically, this book was talking about, and he said there are two antagonistic systems. They are raging against each other. One, liberal, secular, and humanistic, and the other, religious and traditionalist. So today we are going to discuss how those ideas are grounded in our political system, and how those ideas of liberal ideology on the whole, and liberal ideology, conservative or traditional ideology, what's happening in the global space, and what can we do as young people or people that will be inheriting our systems, especially in the Caribbean and nationally St. Lucia. How can protect the minds of our people because of what we've been seeing on the space at this current time? So, welcome. I know it's we had to create a very good foundation for the discussion because ideas needs to be understood so that it can have an effect. So, welcome to you, Mr. Seges. Thank you for collaborating in this episode. How are you? What's up?
Hey man, good to be here with you again, Kevin. You know, it's rare that I ever do podcast episodes with somebody twice. That means that it's a good thing that I'm here again with you. I'm happy to have this discussion, very timely discussion. And yeah, it will be a discussion. It won't just be you asking me questions or me asking you questions. It would be, a back and forth in terms of trying to understand, where we are as a Caribbean community and how we balance these ideas with what we actually have to do. Because ideas are one thing, but actually putting those ideas into practice um, is something completely different. So let's have that conversation.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said ideas must be placed into practice because when you understand ideas, they have a specific flow, a specific system because every idea comes from a theological base. And when you have theology, theology has a philosophy, and the philosophy is expressed in an ideology, and an ideology is a system of ideas. And then when you extract an idea from that, you can place it into policy. So that's where all of the policies that we see in, they must have an ideological base, they must have a philosophical base. And my experience is that when I look at the political sphere, especially in St. Lucia, persons speak on what's right in front of them. And I saw it was Siobhan Bryan who posted on Facebook the last time, we are not having intelligent political conversations, and an intelligent political conversation is discussing the ideas that underline. So I'm going to ask you this question: what do we mean when we talk about a battle of ideas in today's world? Because what we're seeing, and people are losing their lives for ideas, what we're seeing that there are a battle of ideas. There are persons that believe in certain things so strongly, the idea, the worldview. So what do we mean by that, and how does it show up in our Caribbean context?
It's a debate of what is right and what is wrong in different people's point of view. That's basically what I see it as. People believe that a particular way might be right, and then other people might believe that their way or their understanding of the way is right. So it's basically a battle of like just like it says, a battle of ideas, a battle of morals, a battle of point of views. Unfortunately, yes, I realize that people are losing their lives for certain perspectives. I would never condone that. But we see on the flip side, you also have to realize that that means that certain people um, really have strong feelings about those ideas. So they're more than just ideas. They're really the way that they believe that society is going. So yeah, it's something that again it's timely and it's something that must be discussed.
Yeah, I agree. So wouldn't you say that those ideas that people hold, doesn't it if they hold it so strongly, don't you think that it affects the way that they view the world, the world view, and you spoke about morality. It's a battle of what's wrong and what's right,
Right.
and how do we differ? Why do we differ on what's wrong or what's right? Isn't that something that's supposed to be objective? Do we have an objective frame of reference to decode what's wrong or what's right? And why is there such a strong feeling or a strong confusion? By the Bible say they're going to have a very strong confusion. Why is that strong confusion existing? And what can we do in our Caribbean context? I don't want to leave the Caribbean context,
Yeah.
especially St. Lucia and our neighboring countries. Is there any form of subjectivity in morality when it comes to ideas?
Well, that's a very loaded question. The answer to that question, in my perspective, is that it depends on who you speak to, right? In my point of view, there is right and wrong, right? There is right and wrong. Now, how right excuse me, how right and wrong showcases showcases itself might be different. So, for example, right, if you are standing on the on one side of the number six, right, it might appear to you as a number six. If you stand on the other side of that number, it might appear to you as a number nine. Now, the answer whether it is right or wrong, is depends on who actually drew the number, who actually put the number in place. So again, the question about morality is whether there is a hardcore right and wrong. I would say yes, there's a hardcore right and wrong, but the way that we get that answer is by actually asking the person, or understanding the person who has kick-started that idea, or kick-started said movement. That's how we figure out what is right and wrong.
So with your live, and I totally agree. You can view something from your individual perspective.
Right.
You have your individual experience, your lived experience, and within your personal lived experience, you can have a specific view about something,
Correct.
and somebody else lived experience, they might have another view about that same thing, and you and them might be at loggerheads. And
Yeah.
how do you, in your personal experience, let's look at you as an individual. Before we go into the wider landscape, let's look at you as your personal experience. With your personal experience, how have you experienced life? Have you experienced life in a way that morality, what's wrong or right, is subjective? Or is it a way that with your experience, there are things, that there are principles that are built in life that should be respected because of your personal experience?
Yeah, well, yeah, there are principles that should be respected. There's no if and buts about that. However, you also have to consider the thought processes and the ideas of other people, even if they are wrong. I think that's something that lacks too much, Kevin. Is that we don't we are too combative, right? We focus on fighting with each other instead of hearing each other out, and that exists a lot, in particular in Caribbean political circles, but it exists in political circles around the world. If you see that right now, people are too busy, and I don't care what wing you're on, whether it be right wing or left wing. People are too busy fighting with each other instead of hearing each other out, having conversations, having discussions. And when the name calling becomes the core of what we're doing, instead of actually listening to, understanding what exactly this side is saying and what can I learn from them. Because let me tell you something. If you come to the table and you keep on saying that my side is always right, right? No matter what my side says, my side is always right. This side is always right, and regardless of what they say, it is right. And the other side is wrong. Whichever side you stand on, right? That is dangerous. Even if you believe that the other side is wrong, I think it doesn't hurt to, one, understand where they're coming from, and two, spend time having conversations with them. I think that's the best approach, right? You have those conversations with those individuals. You spend time having those conversations with those individuals. The most successful people in terms of bringing peace to the world throughout human history spend time having conversations with both sides of the aisle. Both sides. They did not just sit in the corner and spend time only with the people that they agree with. They spend time having conversations, and we are so afraid to do that. I don't know if it's because we are afraid to be wrong, or afraid to have conversations, or have debates, or it's just that we're just lazy and we just want to spend time on our side. Either way, I think it's wrong if we don't consider the other side. So yes, to answer your question, go back to your question. Yes, I do believe that there are objective rights and wrongs, but even people who are wrong, even people who you disagree with, even people who you can't stand because you think they're so wrong, it doesn't hurt to spend time having conversations with them.
Every study, every statistic tells the same story. Our boys and men are falling behind in education, in health, in physical well being, in economic stability. At Ideas for Boys and Men, we've made it our mission to dig deeper, to understand the real root causes, and to deliver practical, powerful solutions that restore hope and direction. Whether you're a young man searching for purpose, or someone who cares deeply about the next generation. You don't have to figure it out alone. Visit ideasSLU.org. Explore our services, join the movement, and discover how you can find purpose and meaning and direction in your life. Ideas for boys and men, because your future matters. Yeah, and I totally agree with you from that point of view because there's this story that I give all the time. There was once there was a old woman, and her history, and she had a small oven, and she normally baked for her family. And because she had a small oven, when she was pushing the ham in the oven, she always had to cut the end of the ham to put it in the oven. And her daughter saw that. And as her daughter grew, she made it something that traditional. She grew older, life changed, she had a fair amount of opportunities, so she could have purchased a bigger oven. And she started cutting the same thing her mother did. She started cutting the ham and removing the end of it and putting it in the oven. Her daughter saw that, and her daughter thought that that was something that was natural. And she grew up to be a young lady. She got married, and she was doing the same thing. Her husband asked her, "Why is it that you always cut the end of the ham to put it in the oven?" And she said, "Well, I saw my mother do it." And the husband is his inquisitiveness. He was a social, psychologist. He went to ask the grandmother, "But why do you always cut the end of the ham?" The grandmother say, "I saw my mother doing that same thing." And by that time, the mother was passed away. So what I'm trying to show is that sometimes we take up an idea, sometimes we take up a perspective, sometimes we take up a point of view that has been given to us without understanding why it was given to us. In that story, the older lady, she had a smaller oven. That's why she had to cut the end of the arm. But because the other young lineages, because the other young people, her young daughter and her daughter's daughter just followed it without having a conversation, without asking the necessary questions to find out why is it that I must do that? Why is it that that is important to do? You just go ahead and do it. And when you are going to confront somebody who just blindly believes something without asking what it means and what it is, why they must do that, you always get that angry response because they themselves don't know. And you trying to question the mindset, you trying to question why they do what they do. And that's a dangerous thing because they don't know why they do what they do and they're afraid to drop it to get something else. So that's why you have people are very antagonistic for the ideas. And if you look at the political spectrum, majority of people, young people, majority of middle-aged people, they might not know what are the ideas of the right in St. Lucia, what are the ideas of the left in St. Lucia, which one is the socialist, which one is the conservative, which one is the traditionalist. People within the party themselves don't even know the fundamental philosophy of the
But
party.
Kevin, has a question: do we actually have a left or a right in St. Lucia? That's a question, because
But mhm,
we,
mhm.
I mean, I don't see it. I do not see it. Neither of the parties, it from my perspective, and I think that happens across the Caribbean as well. Neither of the parties, there's one side that is supposed to be conservative and the other side who is supposed to be liberal. But we don't see that in our debate because the nature of the debate is usually not about ideas or ideology.
Thank you.
It's about drama. It's about, as we say in our local parlance, row. It's about. It's not about what the debating of ideas. And I have challenged, because I'm a journalist, so I could actually do that. I've actually challenged some of our politicians to their faces to to stand up together and to actually have a debate similar to that of what happens in the United States. I mean, we can't have it exactly the same because we don't elect presidents here. But you have something similar. So similar to what Jamaica recently did. And I'm so happy that Jamaica is taking the lead in that regard. Because these two people, right, across the political divide, in fact, there were several debates in Jamaica, but the one that I really paid attention to was the debate between the two individuals who were leaders of the party who were going up for prime minister. I appreciate that so much. because these two people actually took the time to stand across each other and actually have a conversation about the real issues facing their political sides and their people. We don't do that in St. Lucia at all. We just we are so focused on quarreling with each other and having, like I said, that roar, that drama. Only the things that are dirty, and who is more dirty than the other. That is what we talk about. We rarely even hear the politicians talking about, you know, who what exactly they plan to do. Let's put it that way. What exactly they plan to do with their political power if they get elected into office. They don't say that, but they let you know that this other side is bad, and much less what we will actually be doing if we get elected. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, and one of the things that because I heard Kenny Anthony when he was in his retirement speech and stuff like that, and I was listening to the news, he was saying back then it was more about the idea. I heard that with my own two ears. He said it was more about the idea, but today's politics, the idea is lost, and you're totally correct. We do not have a left and a right wing in St. Lucia. I'm seeing a resemblance of two left wings. That's all I'm seeing. I'm
Well,
seeing a resemblance of two, or I'm seeing two Labour parties in my sense, and that's my
well,
estimation.
that would you think. But if you look at some of the actual ideas that come up across, I can see a confusion. So it's not, it's maybe it's some there maybe the current opposition is left, has moved a little bit more to the left, but I cannot say they're a left wing, and I cannot necessarily say that the Labour Party is as left as it once was. So again, there's a lot of confusion within our political sphere, and
Mhm,
people do not. I don't know. Probably we do not have, like I said, have those conversations enough
mhm,
amongst intelligent individuals. I would assume
mhm,
that the politicians are intelligent individuals. I believe that some of them are, right? Hopefully, all of them are. Because I've not had enough conversations with some of the new candidates. So I'm not saying that, I'm not alluding that some of the politicians are not intelligent. That's what I'm saying. I'm
mhm.
saying that from my perspective, I've not had enough conversations with all of them to say, okay, well, these people can have intellectual discourse. But you would assume that these people who are going up for our elections within a political space will actually have, you know, ideas, and we want to hear more of that, right?
Yeah.
We hear it in snippets sometimes, and I applaud when I do hear it. Right? You have to be an individual who applauds when it's going well. As they say, when it's good, say it's good. But I don't hear nearly enough of it. I hear more of it in the United States, but even in the United States, we also see that political drama at the core center of the argument, instead of actually having specific debates, right? And that's my issue.
Yeah, so I'm going to press you on the other question now, because going to the United States, going to the outer part of the region, and that's what I want to discuss with you. Going to the outer part of the region, there is a clearer distinction between right and left.
Mm,
These people know what their philosophy or the ideologies are,
right.
and they know what they're fighting against. They know what they not represent. That's why some of them call the other side Nazi. That's why some of them call the other side socialist.
Yeah.
That's why some of them call that. They use those terms because they're trying to express something. So the wider regional the wider global discussion, you can see it seeping, even if we're supposed to be having those conversations at home. We're having those conversations about global issues.
Yeah.
You can look on Facebook and people talking about free speech.
Mm-hmm.
People do not respect free speech, and that person do not. We're having those conversations. We are turning our attention. It's like you have your home, Queen, and you have your family that you're supposed to take care of. but you do not know what you're doing with your family. You don't know where you want to take your family. You don't know the purpose of having a family in the first place, but you're going around the community and talking about other people's issues within their own
Right.
homes, and you don't even know that the same thing that you're advising people against, that's what you should be structuring here back at home.
There you go. There you go. And we do that all the time. We focus too much. And I think, you know, that is one of the problems that I have with us as Caribbean people. And I've realized that it's not just St. Lucian, it's Caribbean people. I have journalist friends from around the region, and I have these conversations with them, and they have the same problems that we have. We focus so much on, you know, what is deemed the first world. We don't focus on the global south. We don't focus on where we are in the Caribbean at all. Like we focus on what they're doing over there, but we don't realize, like you rightfully said, that we have those same issues right here, right? But we don't have the conversations about that. And again, it's not about one side being always right and the other side being always wrong. I'm saying we need to have intelligent discussions because I can tell you from my point of view, there's certain things that certain ideologies that are considered right wing that I agree with, right? And we don't have to get into the specifics of what I agree with and what I disagree with here because I mean we'll be talking the entire day.
Yeah.
There are certain ideologies that can be considered left wing that I agree with. But I can tell you clearly that why I agree with this one and why I disagree with this one. Now I've gotten in trouble with friends on who share right wing ideologies, and I've also got in trouble with friends that get in that embrace left wing ideologies because I would sometimes challenge them on certain things that they might say, certain stances that they might take. But there's nothing wrong with the conversation. That's what I'm saying. It is okay to disagree with individuals, right? Respectfully, obviously, disagree with them. But the challenge I have, and I know the challenge that you have, is that we don't have those debates and those conversations nearly enough.
And there is this book that I was actually looking for. There is this book that I read, The Executive Brain. It's a very fascinating book. And what it was talking about is the premise or the thesis of that book is that the political divide between the left and the right it stems far down into our biological structure.
Yeah.
We have a right brain and a left brain. Honestly, believe it or not, we have
Yeah.
a right brain. We have a right brain and a left brain. That's an interesting book. I'm going to show the picture of the book because I would like people to participate and read and to get the broader perspectives. And that's why sometimes you have variations. If you have a third party or a fourth party or
Mm-hmm.
a fifth party, it's always a variation on one side of the spectrum.
Right.
You can never have another party that's completely different from those worldviews
No. No.
because we have two perspectives. We have the right brain, which has it decodes a different personality. You have the left brain, it decodes a different personality because of its functionality. And what the book is saying is that some persons are more right brain than the other persons that are more left brain. Right brain is more conservative in nature. It's what deals with chaos, and left brain is more ordered. It's more about order. It's more functionality, is more about speech, it's more about those things. And a person who listening to that, you can even research right then and there in your phone. What is the distinction between your left brain and your right brain? The functionalities. They do have cross connections, and that's what you're talking about. The ability to have that conversation. Because within your own system, you as an individual, you are a
Yeah.
system of organs.
Mm-hmm.
Within your own system, you having that discrepancy. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and we were saying that to leave all the conflict in the world, we will go up to a high mountain and to forget about society. An old man that was there, we were talking about, he said, even when you go up there by yourself, you
There
will be having
there will
conflict
be more
with
conflict.
yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have conflict with
Yep.
yourself, and you have to decide: should I make that decision? Should I be the left wing decision? Let's call it that, a left brain decision, or should I make
Your left brain is.
a right brain decision?
I like
But
that.
the decision and the decisions are created because the decisions that you were supposed to choose must respond to the change in your environment. Sometimes your environment requires a more traditionalist conservative perspective, and sometimes the environment is changing around you, and it requires a more liberal, democratic decision making.
Right.
So, because of those two, you must be able to come and talk about it.
Both
And
of them.
I'm going to give you a biblical perspective on that. When you saw the idea of good and evil in some sense, when you saw the idea of Cain and Abel in some sense, Cain and Abel, it's a two. When you read it deeply, you're going to see it's a different pattern of human behavior.
Hmm.
Some human beings are more conservative, as you could see. Abel ability was able to, in some sense, make the necessary sacrifice and again, that's his personality, that's the internal personality, to make the necessary sacrifice that was required to serve God, because he sacrificed the flesh, he sacrificed animals. And Cain sacrifice wasn't as strong. Cain didn't want to sacrifice so much, so Cain was more from that perspective. So you can see that right down to the wire, the first two human beings had a characteristic of liberal and conservative. And up to a day like today, all our political systems, us as individuals, either we are liberal in our personality or we are conservatives in our personality. And one is not better than the other. Both is needed based on the change in the
There you go.
environment.
There you
And
go.
like you've been saying, the conversation must be had on a national level.
There you go. And going back to what you spoke about in terms of the left brain and the right brain, I never, well, I knew about the left brain and the right brain, but I never really thought of it that way. But if you really think about what you just said there as well a little bit longer, you realize that those two elements of the brain work together, right? And that's something that we
Mm-hmm.
don't see at all. They work together, right? They disagree.
Mm-hmm.
They had conflict with each other sometimes, but they work together,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When everything is working well, there's equilibrium. Everything is working well, right? And
And
then
that's for the overall aim. Let me just put that in there.
yeah,
The only way they can work together, Queen, is for the overall aim.
exactly, for the
If you do
common
not
good.
have an For the common good, if you do not have an overall aim as an individual, you fall into what Viktor Frankl called, that's the author of the book Man's Search for Meaning, he called existential crisis. That's where the children of Israel were in the wilderness when they left Pharaoh. They were not working towards a valuable aim. Only a valuable aim can unite us. A football team must have a valuable aim to win the game for them to work as a unified unit. If you do not have a valuable aim as a nation, if your nation is not aiming towards something higher, you will get fragmentation. So, what is our overall aim as a nation, Queen? What are we trying to accomplish? And because we do not have an overall aim, we do not have a unifying aim or principle, that's where the fragmentation is going to be. And Caribbean unity and national progress is just speech in the air. Working towards a valuable aim in life, one that benefits you, your family, your community, and your society, has been proven to give men a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. It transforms idle, destructive aggression into focused, ambitious action. One book that captures this truth is Purpose Driven. The meaning of life is found in the purpose to live. If you are a young boy or man searching for direction, this is one of the books you should investigate, because discovering your purpose is the first step towards changing your life. Get your copy on Amazon or call 725-8562.
Yeah. Now, when you speak about overall aim, and that's something that I really learned it this year. So this year, just for context, those of you who follow Game Changers, and you would know that, Kevin, I
Mhm.
would have, well, I went to China, right? I spent 4 months in China, and in terms of overall aim and systematic development, if you look at how China has developed over the last, let's say, 40 years. 40 years ago, China was one of the poorest countries in the world. Simple as that. They were one of the poorest
Mhm.
countries in the world. Today, they are one of the richest countries in the world. You're, without having found well springs of oil and so many things that the rest of the world has to enrich themselves, they have become rich. And what I've realized over there, as much as I don't necessarily agree with everything that I've seen there, don't necessarily agree with the system of government and everything that happens over there, What they have done is that their leaders have come together for a common goal and achieved something that way. And we don't do that at all in the Caribbean. We are too focused on fighting each other. And both sides say they love St. Lucia, or both sides say they love whatever country. At least they claim to love the country, but they don't actually show it in practice sometimes. In terms of, coming together and have conversations. It's again, you will disagree, you will have problems amongst yourselves, and that is fine, right? That is fine to have disagreements. That is fine to have issues with what the other side says. What is not okay is not having the conversation. I think I'm sounding like a broken record now, but I think that is something that I really need to emphasize, because it comes
No, no,
across
you
all.
you are totally correct. You are totally correct. Having the conversation, because like our good friend said, the minute you do not have the organization, you fall into tyranny, you fall into war, you fall into fighting. You must have that conversation. You must. But the point about China, again, going back, if you look at China, there's some things I don't agree with China at all because of my personality, because of I believe in individual freedom.
Yeah.
I believe in the rule of law, and I also believe in property rights. I believe in those things. I will advocate for governments to allow. I would advocate for a smaller government and a
Mhm.
smaller government influence. I would advocate for personal free will. I'll give persons the responsibility, allow persons to have the responsibility for their development. And I will also advocate for the other side, which is a social safety net for individuals who do not have the capacity, and you have to have a proper standard to a proper criteria to be able to measure what that standard is. You cannot take care of everybody all the time and not give them that free autonomy to make the necessary sacrifices to be that person that could achieve something. I believe in development. I believe in pushing yourself forward as an individual, and I also believe in taking care of the young. But I'm more swayed towards a more not just individualistic, but as the Bible said when Moses asked Pharaoh to let the people go in the wilderness. He
Yeah.
didn't say let the people go to do what you want. He said let the people go to worship the Lord to worship the Lord. So when I'm talking about individualistic, I'm not saying individualistic just to worship your whims. Individualistic to do what is right,
Yep.
not just government coming and tell you government have total control over everything that you have to do. I don't believe in that. So that's where I have the problem with China. I think China has total control. The government has total control over everything that is required in times of crisis,
Mhm.
but in other areas it could have a negative effect.
Yeah.
That's what you and that's what I believe communism is.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, and again, you see how you really broke that down. Many people cannot break that down like you broke it down, because they will tell you, I hate this side. They'll not tell you why. They'll not tell you what about the side that they don't like. They'll just tell you that they hate this side. And by the way, I think we often say that the most overused word in the world is love. But I also said maybe the second most overused word is the word hate, because we don't really know what hate is, right? You might dislike, you might disagree, but you don't necessarily hate. I believe that the word hate means that if I can end it, I would, right? Most things that we say that we hate, we don't hate, because if you could end an individual, 95% of us will not do that.
Okay, yeah. So the next question that's really going to take us into um, the importance of this conversation is how has the global ideological divide affect our cultural identity, especially in terms of faith, family, and community values?
Well, how has it affected? Well, first of all, let me just establish that it has affected the way that we view the world. Some people have, because of the conversation, some people have changed the way that they believe, whether they choose not to believe in, let's say, maybe a Christian point of view anymore, because they believe that somehow, it's too rigid, it's too conservative, and or some people have chosen to adopt some of what the other side says, and not change, not become, not leave Christianity or not leave any faith-based organization, but just adopt some of what is being said because they believe that it better aligns with what the Bible says. So I guess it has changed the way we look at the world, but again, I think it has probably changed it for the worst. It has made us more divided instead of actually changed us to understand each other better or to actually have meaningful conversations. It has created division in the world, and we've seen it filter down into the Caribbean. You know, they always say that when the US or when the first world countries sneeze, we are the one to get the cold. In fact, I think we have pneumonia at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I will ask that question. So, what is the purpose of a belief in some sense? What is the purpose of what was the purpose of our traditional values? And when I look at our traditional values and the two sides of the conversation, there's two sides of the conversation. One is pro-choice, what I choose to do, and the other side of the conversation is pro-life, what is good not for me but for life. And again, I have my preference, and my preference is more towards pro-life. And why I have that, because why I believe that, because sometimes you hold beliefs that is interesting to some part of you, the part of you that want to drink whenever you want, the part of you that want to participate in behaviors that you know is not healthy for you. And if you allow somebody to do all those behaviors, you're going to see how they're going to end up. The part of you that want to, the deep dark part of the flesh that's never satisfied. And again, goes back to sacrifice. And I see the argument for pro-choice is for that. Allow me to choose what I want to become. Allow me to be a goat. Allow me to be a sheep. Allow me to be a cat. Whatever I believe in my mind, that's what I am. And that speaks to a high level of narcissism in some sense. It doesn't even care about the family. It doesn't even care about the community. It doesn't even care about the nation. And I'm seeing people that parrot those pro-life perspective, pro-choice perspective, which has its positive, but when you parrot it too strongly and you then turn back and tell me you love your country, I'm saying, okay, if you love your country and you want your country is made up of people and people have life, and you'd want things that would be done in your country to promote life, and you are promoting pro-choice strongly, I tend to wonder, you are fragmented in your perspectives, in your way of thinking, so much so that you don't even understand what those two system of ideas mean. That doesn't mean you're taking everything away from pro-choice, but the kind of beliefs that pro-choice is pushing on us nowadays, that it seeps into our society, it seeps into our educational system. And like I tell people, if you take two men and two women and two men, okay, let's just say you take two women and put them on an island by themselves, this, and you come back 100 years, there is no life. So I, as a pro-life person, I respect your pro-choice at your home, but when you come with your pro-choice in the school system, when you come with your pro-choice in the public domain, I am part of the public domain. I have to tell you I disagree with the pro-choice in that regard, because it is not sustainable to life if you look at it logically. And I'm going to stand strong on my belief. And I'm not going to negotiate with my belief. You can do your thing at your home but when you come in the public domain and try and push that on children, who are the young men and the young women that's going to stand to protect the innocent children? When you come with your extreme pro-choice, do what you want, bestiality, burglary, whatever, you can just say, just do what you want. That's not sustainable for a social order. And we are very afraid to say that as Christians. I believe you're a man of faith. We so difficult for us to say pro-choice. Yeah. Do that in your own terms. We don't have to know your business. You'll deal with that with God. But when you come in and try to indoctrinate children, indoctrinate people out in the public space for your own pro-choice ideologies that is not sustaining for life across time. We have to say something about that, and we are afraid to talk about it. So, from my point of view, our traditional values were based on something higher, and they tell us our traditional values was all about racism. It's all the white man told you that an XY chromosome is a man, so that's because you believe that you're a racist and you're stupid. So you must be a black man and believe that somebody with an XY chromosome is a girl. That's amazing. That's amazing, and that's how those the global ideological orders are disrupting our traditional values and our identity as a people. Release
Yeah,
this
so
one,
so
and
so
then
more
we
than
can
anything
talk
else,
again because
Kevin,
there's a lot to talk about.
I am pro responsibility, right? Whatever is a responsible decision within that's fair, I agree with it. And you can apply that across all of those debates, whether it's the abortion debate, whether it is the whether to accept members of the LGBTQ community debate. You can apply that across debates. What is a responsible decision to make? How can we sustain life, I guess, in a long term, right? And but how can we extend life in the way that it's best beneficial for society in general, right? That is my stand. Again, I believe that the right decision is often nuanced. I believe that what the Bible says stands. I do believe that, but I also believe that the right decision based on biblical principles is often not as straightforward as we say, okay, well, because we have to speak the truth in love, right? And sometimes we forget about the in love part, but we still have to speak the truth, right? So there is that is where I
Mhm,
see.
mhm,
I don't want to say the word balance, but it is already a balance. It is
mhm,
speaking the truth in love. These two things often are at conflict with each other. They should not be at conflict with each other, but there must be, that cohesion. So again, in terms of actually the having a stance on these issues, I am pro responsibility. What is a responsible decision? If if it is irresponsible to have individuals die, in whatever way you think these individuals will die, then we shouldn't do that, right? If it's irresponsible to have individuals be placed in a position where they cannot disagree with your worldview, then we should go against that. Whatever the responsible decision is, that's what I am pro. And more than anything else, I think that is the best. That is what Jesus would do, and that is my stance.
mhm. Because in biblical context, it's all about when you look at that, speaks to Christ. The Bible appreciates life so much. It appreciates eternal life. It promises eternal life. It respects life so much. It respects eternal life. And I get what you're saying, and that's why I tell persons, if you are doing something, my friend, you are participating in something I know that is objectively, not just me, objectively. Let's say, for example, you are an alcoholic. You tend to drink all the time, and I know that's going to destroy you as an individual. That's going to destroy your family. That's going to destroy you. You probably might get too drunk because a car accident kill an innocent person. I don't have a problem with you. I don't hate you. I dislike the addiction that has grabbed you and is using you as a tool, because there are, and well, for lack of a better word, there are spirits that grab people, and we should be able to say, okay, that's not a good behavior. And I don't have a problem with you. I'm not going to say that something should happen to you, and I'm not going to hate you. I might try to help you, but to say in your mind that it's okay for you to be, since you are my friend, and I say it's okay for you to drink your rum, it's okay for you to be drunk every day, just because I want your approval, and just because I think that if I tell you that it's not okay, you are going to disagree with me, and we're going to end our friendship. I'm going to suppress my conscience, and I'm going to tell you it's okay for you to do what I know it's not beneficial for you, your family, our social order. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, not, you are not You as an individual, a living individual, not you that's the problem. It's the addiction, the thing that you're doing. That's why the Bible says you should separate the sin from the sinner. You're not hating the sinner, but you can't dislike the sin. But we're building a social order where there is no such thing as sin. Everything you choose to do is right. There is no morality. And some people tend to be afraid to speak against that because they probably made a mistake last week. And for them to say that that is wrong, they will look at themselves and say, at least last week I made a mistake. If you do it, it's wrong as well. Not because you did it, that doesn't mean it's wrong. Just be honest. I did it, but it was wrong. And that's the truth will set you free to speak with a conscionable, loving tone. But if you want to create the moral framework of what is wrong and right based on your individual morality, you will always compromise. And that's the thing. That's the thing, and that's where those ideas come into play, because those greater ideas are surrounding us as a region. It's surrounding us, our schools, the minds of our young people, our children, our homes. These ideas are seeping through the social media space, and we are not talking about it. We don't want to see anything about it, but it's already in our homes. It's already in our communities. It's already, our young children are already being radicalized by these ideas, and we do not want to talk about it. Radicalization happens right there in your phone. What your son is watching, what your daughter is watching, those ideas are creeping into their minds. And we feel like it's wrong to talk about. We want to be silent about it.
Yep. Well, bro, I think that's a good place to end. We leave the comment section for people to discuss. What do you think about those debates? What side of the aisle do you first of all fall on? Both sides are welcome, by the way, to have conversations. I know for sure on Game Changers and also on your platform as well, Kevin. Um, I what do you think about those conversations? Do you agree with what was said here? Do you disagree with what was said here? Let's have the conversation. That is the most important thing for me. Because if we can have those conversations, if we can have respectful discussions, then I think we will have achieved the goal of this recording and this podcast, collaborative podcast. All right? All right. Any for sure. For sure, for sure. Anyhow, guys, as I always say on Game Changers, stay hungry and I'll see you next time. And let's continue having respectful but meaningful conversations. Bye bye.
Are you nurturing an idea for personal growth, business innovation, or social change through a non-profit organization or government institution, but unsure of where to begin? Or perhaps you've started the journey and hit a roadblock, or the results aren't matching your expectations? Let Apex Strategy be your guide in transforming your idea into reality. We help you clarify the right direction for your idea, ensuring it serves a greater purpose and finds its true meaning. Beyond that, we provide the expertise to build a structure where your idea can truly thrive. Our insights in strategy, optimization, and the seamless integration of cutting-edge technology and AI will breathe life into your idea. We offer learning and development consulting, where we help align your idea with global, regional, national industrial trends and policies by equipping you and your staff with the proper skills to be competent on the global scale, which is driven by the ideas of the fourth industrial revolution. We also offer organizational structure consulting, where we build the structure around your idea, giving it the foundation to stand tall and grow into something powerful. We offer project consulting, where we find out where you are using data and optimize processes as to where you should be by integrating the appropriate technology for your idea's life cycle. We also offer Apex Media, where we provide a meaningful narrative to the market surrounding your idea, not just social media posts, but the story of what your idea represents. We also do project proposal writing, business plan, regional and international procurement. If you are serious about turning your idea into reality, call us at 725-8562.
Check out our website. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok.